You ever notice how people love to whisper about things they can't control? How they twist your name around in their mouths like it's some forbidden flavor they're addicted to. They don't need you in the room. They don't even need the truth. They just need the thrill of dragging your identity into places it doesn't belong. And that's the funny part. While you're busy minding your own steps, they're having this little secret affair with your reputation, your image, your story, like parasites feeding on the version of you they invented. They toy with it in the dark, shaping it, exaggerating it, bending it into something that entertains them. But what they don't realize is that every lie, every whisper, every quiet little sin committed with your name only proves one thing: you've become too powerful to ignore. They crave the taste of you because your existence disturbs the silence they're hiding in. They cling to the shadows of your life because they can't create anything worth talking about in their own time. People obsess over you when their own lives feel too small. It's a simple, ugly truth that most refuse to see. They can't tolerate your presence because it exposes the emptiness of their own existence. While they shuffle through their little routines, pretending everything is fine, pretending their days have meaning, someone like you moves with purpose, with energy, with intention. And that movement, that spark, it makes them uncomfortable. It makes them notice their own inadequacy. And what do people do when they feel inadequate? They fixate. They obsess. They invent stories. They clutch at the pieces of you that they can pretend to control, all to hide the hollowness inside themselves. It's a strange, almost comedic dance watching it unfold. You do nothing, really, but exist fully in the world, and suddenly your name appears in conversations, in whispers, in thoughts you'll never hear. They exaggerate your actions, twist your words, imagine motives you never had. They construct a version of you in their minds that feeds their obsession while keeping their fear safely contained. They don't want the real you. The real you is too powerful, too honest, too alive. What they want is a reflection, a shadow, a toy they can manipulate in their fantasies because the truth is unbearable. And it isn't just about envy, though that plays its part. It's about fear. Fear that the life you're building, the energy you're radiating might highlight their failures, their stagnation, their cowardice. People are terrified of what they cannot influence. You are influence incarnate, and influence demands recognition, whether they're willing to admit it or not. When you live unfiltered, unapologetic, unstoppable, it presses on everyone else, and they respond the only way they know how, by turning their attention to you, consuming your image in secret, dissecting it in quiet corners where they can pretend it isn't happening in their own world. It's funny how obsession works. It's rarely conscious. They don't always sit down and decide, I will fixate on this person. It creeps in. Little thoughts pile on top of each other, each one louder than the last, until their day revolves around what you did, what you said, what they imagine you might do next. They become amateur detectives of your life, collecting fragments, piecing together a version that comforts them. They whisper about you to others, not to understand you, but to validate their obsession. Every distorted story becomes a mirror reflecting their longing, their desire, their fear that life will pass them by while you move forward without them. And the more you shine, the louder their obsession grows. Success, confidence, clarity, movement, all of it acts like a magnet, drawing their anxious attention. They can't touch it. They can't shape it. They can't control it. And that helplessness fuels their fixation. Every step you take outside the bounds they've imagined for you becomes another spark that ignites the fire in their minds. And they feed it, secretly thrilled, terrified, addicted to the drama your existence creates. They cannot step away, even if they wanted to, because in some twisted way their lives feel incomplete without watching yours unfold. Without twisting it into a story they can cling to. You become the center of their world without asking to be. That's the power of being fully alive. That's the danger of moving with clarity and intention. People hate it, and they love it at the same time. Hate because it reminds them of what they lack. Love because it gives them a distraction, a secret thrill, a reason to feel alive in their own stagnant existence. And you, oblivious to most of it, are untouchable. They cannot reach the real you, only the idea they've created in their minds. And yet that idea controls their thoughts, their whispers, their attention. And what's deliciously ironic is that their obsession proves your relevance. Every glance, every whisper, every distorted rumor, they are signs you matter more than they dare to admit. People who feel small, irrelevant, powerless, they notice when someone refuses to be small. They notice when someone claims the space they were too timid to occupy. And in noticing, they circle closer, their obsession growing as they try to make sense of what they cannot influence, cannot dominate, cannot destroy. This is the pattern. The world doesn't always attack you directly. Sometimes it obsesses, sometimes it whispers, sometimes it breathes your name like a secret that terrifies them. But that obsession, strange as it is a mark of something larger. It's proof that you exist vividly, uncontainably, that your life has weight and presence and impact beyond the cages they've built for themselves, and that the world through fear, envy, fascination cannot ignore it. Lies become their escape when your truth threatens their comfort. It's fascinating, really, the lengths people will go to avoid facing reality, especially when that reality is you. They see your confidence, your clarity, your refusal to apologize for existing, and it terrifies them. Not because you're dangerous, not because you're violent, not because you're loud, but because you are undeniable, and the truth, the raw, unfiltered version of someone who moves with purpose, exposes the gaps in their own lives. The cowardice they've been hiding, the mediocrity they've been excusing. They can't handle that. So they invent stories, they twist words, they spin rumors, they construct elaborate fantasies in which they control the narrative, in which they reduce you to something manageable, something they can digest without fear. People think lies are simple, easy tools, like a switch you flip to get what you want. But these lies are more than that. They are shields, barriers, escape routes from a world they cannot understand or dominate. They're protective armor for fragile egos, and in your presence, every falsehood they create is both a confession and a distraction. It tells you more about them than it ever could about you. Their whispers, their exaggerations, their small deceptions they reveal, their desperation, their envy, their obsession with control. They can't be honest because honesty would force them to face what they lack, and that is unbearable. The beauty of truth is that it doesn't negotiate. It doesn't ask politely to be acknowledged. It simply exists, and when someone tries to distort it, to twist it, to make it fit their small world, the distortion itself becomes a story of power, or, more accurately, a story of fear. They fear your authenticity because it reminds them of their own failures, their own compromises, their own inability to step fully into their lives. So they run, they whisper, they fantasize, they spin illusions. It's almost comical how much energy they invest in maintaining the fiction that they are in control, while reality, the reality of you, continues to move forward without hesitation. And the obsession is infectious. Once they start creating lies around you, the stories grow and multiply. The tiniest seed of exaggeration becomes a sprawling forest of fiction. They pull in witnesses, accomplices of their distracted minds, and suddenly the narrative is alive, twisting, thriving, entirely detached from the truth. They feed on it because it gives them purpose. It distracts them. It convinces them they are participating in something important, when in fact all they are doing is wrestling with shadows, chasing ghosts, trying desperately to contain a reality they cannot hold. The energy they invest, the panic they mask with cleverness, all points to one thing: you matter more than they are willing to admit. What's even more delicious is that lies, by their very nature, are brittle. They can't sustain the weight of reality for long. The closer they try to mimic or distort your life, the more obvious it becomes that the truth is untouchable. Every whisper, every rumor, every half-truth they spread cracks under scrutiny. And even when they think they've succeeded, the universe has a way of letting reality peek through. It leaks, it whispers, it shows the discrepancies. And people, frantic as they are, realize too late that their attempts to control perception only amplify the impact of the truth they were trying to hide from. Meanwhile, you move forward, oblivious, or perhaps only partially aware of the theater unfolding around you. Every lie, every distortion, every imagined narrative is like a mirror showing their fear, not your weakness. They become more predictable with each fabrication, more desperate, more transparent. Their obsession grows not because they understand you, but because they can't ignore you. Every exaggeration, every manipulation, every fantasy they spin is a silent acknowledgement. You exist vividly. You command, attend asking for it, and their world, their fragile little universe, is unprepared to accommodate someone who refuses to conform to the smallness they've chosen. And the irony is perfect. The more they lie, the more they chase, the more they obsess, the clearer your influence becomes. They are creating a web of fiction around you, trying to trap your presence, your impact, your narrative, but in reality, they are illuminating it. Each twisted story is an unintentional spotlight on your existence. Their fear becomes your evidence. Their obsession becomes your sign of relevance. They try to escape your reality, but in doing so, they highlight it for everyone else to see. Lies, after all, are only powerful when believed. But in their desperate attempts, they show exactly where the truth lies, and they cannot touch it. They feed on your image because they can't build their own. It's a funny thing about people. They spend so much energy staring at someone else, dissecting their life, twisting it, shaping it, as if by focusing all their attention on another, they can somehow fill the void inside themselves. They watch you, study you, imitate you, all in the hope that your presence will patch over the emptiness they refuse to confront. They create fantasies around your decisions, your successes, your failure, all because the reality of creating something original terrifies them. It's easier to borrow your fire, to steal the shadows of your brilliance, than it is to light one themselves, and it's everywhere. Every interaction, every glance, every subtle comparison, they're pulling your energy, their own story, rewriting the narrative of your life to suit the limitations of theirs. They whisper, they exaggerate, they gossip. They frame you in ways that suit their comfort. While hiding the truth, they are incapable of producing the same intensity of being. You move forward in the world with clarity and action, and they chase the echo, the footprint, the residue of what you've already accomplished. They are obsessed, yes, but not with you. They are obsessed with the idea of filling the holes in themselves using someone else's light. The more visible you become, the louder their obsession grows. They begin to emulate the surface, copying gestures, mimicking patterns, replicating phrases, all in a weak attempt to claim some ownership of your essence. It's comical to watch, really. They think proximity equals mastery, imitation equals power, attention equals control. But the truth is, the closer they try to get, the more obvious it becomes that authenticity cannot be copied. You cannot be reduced to mimicry. Every stolen piece they grasp, every borrowed fragment becomes another testament to the fact that you exist vividly and they do not. And it's not just envy. It's fear. Fear that your reality, the clarity, the courage, the unrelenting motion highlights the mediocrity in their own lives. They become obsessed, not because you are more than them, but because your presence reminds them that they are less than they promised themselves they would be. They chase shadows of you in their minds, turning fragments into narratives, all while pretending that you have done something to provoke them, when in fact the only crime is that you are alive, active, unafraid. Your mere existence is an accusation against their inaction, their hesitation, their failure to occupy the spaces they were meant to fill. What makes it even more interesting is how subtle it is. They don't always confront you. They don't always voice the obsession. Sometimes it's quiet, almost invisible, an imitation of your work. Vague rumor, a little exaggeration in conversation, but it's there. It hovers around you like smoke. Impossible to grasp, yet unavoidable in its effect. They feed on it, yes, but the feeding is a reflection of their own hunger. Their obsession is a shadow of desire for a life they cannot make for themselves. They want a shortcut, a stolen spark, a borrowed fire to illuminate what they have failed to ignite within their own souls. And yet, while they invest so much in feeding off your image, they are transparent. Every exaggeration, every replication, every calculated imitation betrays them. You can see it if you look closely, the desperation behind their gaze, the tension in their movements, the awkwardness in their attempts to inhabit a role that isn't theirs. They reveal themselves far more than they ever reveal you. Their obsession, their theft, their constant comparison, all of it is a confession. They cannot create, they cannot sustain, and they cannot exist fully without referencing what already exists in you. Meanwhile, you move forward, oblivious or perhaps only partly aware of the theater they've constructed around you. Every stolen idea, every whispered rumor, every imitation only proves what you already know, that your presence is unavoidable, that your life, your energy, your vision radiates with such intensity that it forces reactions. Even if those reactions are born out of fear, jealousy, or inadequacy, they cannot touch your essence. They can manipulate the surface, the perception, the shadow of you, but the substance, the fire, the relentless momentum, those remain untouchable. And their feeding only underscores the truth they can never admit. You are alive in a way they cannot be. And that is terrifying for them, exhilarating for the world, and unstoppable in its effect. Their whispers reveal their insecurity, not your weakness. Oh, it's almost delicious how people think that words, little slivers of sound and gossip, could ever define you. They scuttle around in shadows, muttering, exaggerating, trying to bend reality into something they can digest. And yet every syllable betrays more about them than ever could about you. Every rumor, every sideways glance, every carefully constructed lie is a window into their fear, their envy, their desperate desire to feel in control of a world that refuses to bend to their mediocrity. They try to fracture your image, to erode your presence, but what they're really doing is exposing themselves. The insecurity isn't in you, it's dripping from their every word. And it's everywhere, like a dark perfume. You walk into a room, and suddenly there's a tension that wasn't there before. Eyes flicker, voices lower, conversations twist toward you without reason, without courage to speak openly. They think they're clever, that they can manipulate perception, control the narrative, define your reputation through insinuation and shadow. But it doesn't work. It never works, because the truth doesn't live in the whispers. The truth lives in the presence, the actions, the movement that they cannot imitate, the reality that refuses to bend under their hands. Every attempt to tarnish you only illuminates their desperation, their inability to face what they've avoided for too long, their own smallness. What's funny is the way they escalate. At first it's subtle, a murmur here, a hint there, as if testing boundaries, seeing if you will react. And when you don't, when you continue moving, when your presence remains intact, the whispers become sharper, louder in the corridors where they believe they're safe. They try to provoke a flicker of vulnerability, an imperfect moment they can then stretch into a story of control. But the more they push, the more obvious it becomes. The weakness isn't in you, it's in them. And the harder they try, the more their insecurity spills over, creating patterns that anyone paying attention can read. People never realize how revealing they are. They think that shadows are safe, that hiding behind hushed tones protects them. But humans are sloppy when driven by fear, by envy, by obsession. Every glance, every half smile, every carefully edited conversation leaves traces. You can sense it, even if you don't confront it. Their insecurity is a stain on every interaction. And the beautiful irony is that you didn't ask to be studied, dissected, whispered about. You just exist. And their reactions, their obsession, their frantic attempts to destabilize you are the proof of the power you already hold. And it doesn't stop with words. Their insecurity shapes actions too. They will imitate, they will sabotage, they will manipulate, all to reclaim a sense of dominance they never had. They will try to bend circumstances, to predict your moves, to be one step ahead, but their calculations are poisoned by the very fear that drives them. The more they try to control, the more transparent they become. It's almost a performance, an unintentional dance where they reveal exactly what they're most terrified of, the fact that you are untouchable in ways they can't comprehend, that no whisper or lie or manipulation can diminish the force of your presence. Every whisper, every lie, every attempt to undermine you is a reflection, not of failure, not of weakness, not of anything you've done, but of them, of the corners they hide in, the inadequacies they refuse to confront, the desperate longing to matter in a world that doesn't stop for their fear. And while they think they're gaining control, what they're really doing is creating a map of their own insecurities, their own obsessions, their own fragile need for validation. You begin to see it if you pay attention, not in the words themselves, but in the patterns, the timing, the consistency, the way the same people circle, the way the same stories appear, the way energy shifts when your presence is felt, and it's intoxicating in its clarity, because it shows you something fundamental. The whispers never reflect you. They reflect the fear, the envy, the obsession, the inadequacy of the one whispering. An understanding that gives a kind of power, because when you know it's not about your weakness, but their insecurity, you see them for what they are, and their attempts to wound. You lose their teeth, that your impact exposes what they lack, so they distort you. It's fascinating, really, how someone else's presence can unsettle the careful little world others have built around themselves. They live in their comfortable boxes, whispering assurances to themselves, pretending they are enough. Pretending the world is predictable, pretending their lives have meaning. And then you arrive, and suddenly everything trembles. Your clarity, your momentum, your refusal to shrink to their expectations. It's a mirror they weren't prepared to look into. And what do they do when they're confronted with their own insufficiency? They invent narratives. They twist your image. They fabricate stories, distort your actions, exaggerate your words. It's not about you, it's about them, about what they are too afraid to admit about themselves. They don't distort you out of hate. Oh no, it's more delicious than that. They distort you out of terror, because every choice you make, every confident step you take, every unflinching declaration of your reality reminds them of everything they've avoided. They see the energy you wield, and it highlights their inertia. They see your focus, and it highlights their distraction. They see your courage, and it highlights their hesitation. And rather than confronting the uncomfortable truth that they are smaller, weaker, slower than they pretend to be, they create lies. They fabricate a version of you that fits the limitations of their imagination. It's a subtle art, the way they distort reality. At first, it's whispers, hints, shadowed comments that make you question whether you imagine them. And then it escalates. Actions are twisted, motivations misrepresented, intentions cast in darkness. Every small movement you make becomes a puzzle. They attempt to solve a story. They attempt to rewrite a version of truth that aligns with their fear. They are artists of illusion, crafting a spectacle meant to contain you, to shrink you to a size that feels safe for their fragile egos. And the more they push, the more frantic they become, the more obvious it is that the distortion is about their inadequacy, not your reality. And the funny thing is, the harder they try, the more their obsession with you grows. They cannot stop. Every distorted story, every whispered exaggeration, every attempt to make your presence less threatening only amplifies your influence. You become the axis around which their fears revolve. They cannot touch the essence of you, but they can manipulate the shadows. They feed on those shadows, obsessing over them, twisting them, consuming them, and in doing so, they reveal the depth of your impact. The fact that they feel compelled to distort, to fabricate, to obsess is proof that you matter in ways they cannot measure. It's almost theatrical if you watch closely. Every lie they tell, every exaggeration they propagate, every subtle manipulation of perception is a performance in fear. They are trying desperately to reclaim control over a world in which your presence cannot be denied. And in their desperation, they are transparent. Every fabricated story reflects more about their need than it ever could about your truth. You can see it in the timing, in the consistency, in the small details that betray the panic behind the act. They cannot hide their obsession because it is born of necessity. The reality of your impact cannot be contained, and yet they continue. Because what else can they do? They are caught in the gravitational pull of someone who refuses to conform to their limitation. Every time you make a decision that honors your own momentum, they react. Every time you speak with clarity, they murmur stories in the corner, trying to carve your existence into something digestible for them. Every time you move forward without hesitation, they scramble to make sense of it, to control it, to bend it, and in the process, they expose themselves. And in that exposure lies your power. Because once you understand the mechanics of their distortion, you see the truth, the lies, the whispers, the obsession. They are proof. Proof that you are alive, ways they cannot be. Proof that your presence matters. Proof that the world responds to you, whether they approve or not. And while they waste their energy twisting your image, you continue to move, unshaken, unbound, untouched by the chaos they try to create around you, a living testament to the power of existing fully in a world that would rather deny it. Obsession is the shadow cast by your rising influence. Oh, it's mesmerizing. The way people react when they realize someone is moving beyond the boundaries they thought existed. They sense it before they can understand it. It's not loud, not always visible, but it ripples through the air, touches everyone nearby. And suddenly the comfortable little illusions they live in begin to crack. You move with a momentum they cannot grasp, a clarity they cannot imitate, a presence they cannot contain. And what do? They obsess. They watch. They whisper. They project their fears onto you, crafting stories, exaggerations, and fantasy, designed to make your reality fit inside the smallness of their perception. And the obsession is insidious because it starts quietly. At first, it's subtle, a lingering glance, a hesitation in conversation, a careful watch from across the room. They tell themselves it's curiosity, or admiration, or just coincidence. But the truth is deeper, darker. They are trying to process something they cannot control, something that makes them feel inadequate, exposed, unimportant. And when that feeling grows, when it blooms inside them like a disease, it fuels obsession. Every thought circles back to you. Every action is measured against you. Influence. Every conversation carries the undertone of your existence. It's fascinating to see how their minds work. They create narratives to explain what they cannot comprehend. They fabricate scenarios in which they hold the power, in which your presence is diminished, in which their fear becomes your problem. They whisper, they manipulate, they exaggerate, they distort. But all of it is an attempt to grasp at the reality they cannot control. And the irony is delicious. In trying to contain you, they only illuminate the extent of your influence. The very obsession that they think shields them from your power is proof of it. People obsessed with you react to shadows, to half-truths, to the faintest ripple of your movement. They dissect gestures, misinterpret intentions, and build entire stories from fragments they barely understand. And all of it circles back to fear that your clarity will highlight their confusion, that your courage will reveal their hesitation, that your action will expose their stagnation. They try to make sense of your momentum in ways that reassure them that the world remains under their control. But the more they spin, the clearer it becomes. Control is an illusion, and you are a living proof of it. Their obsession doesn't always take the form of confrontation. Sometimes it's silence, a quiet study from the background, a calculated observation that masks anxiety with patience. Sometimes it's aggression, subtle or overt, a desperate attempt to disrupt, to provoke, to reclaim the attention they feel slipping through their fingers. Sometimes it's mimicry, imitating your style, your words, your choices, as if duplicating a shadow could dilute the substance of your influence. They cannot touch it, they cannot reduce it, they cannot contain it. And that impossibility is what fuels the obsession further, turning it into a cycle that feeds on itself, growing larger with every reaction, every success, every step you take forward without hesitation. And what makes it so intoxicating is the clarity it offers you. The obsession, the whispers, the distortions, they are all markers. They mark your presence, your power, your unavoidable impact. Every reaction, every exaggeration, every attempt to manipulate you confirm one truth: you exist vividly in a world that would rather stay small. They cannot contain it. They cannot diminish it, and they cannot escape it. Every effort they make to bend your image to their comfort only highlights your movement, your clarity, your influence. The shadow of obsession follows you everywhere. It waits in corners, lingers in conversations, drifts through the spaces you occupy without intending to, and yet it's harmless unless you let it define you. It is not a weapon aimed at you. It is a mirror reflecting the insecurity, the envy, the fear of those who cannot rise to meet you. You watch, you move, you exist, and they react. That's all it is. That's all it ever was. Their obsession proves your presence, your relevance, your unstoppable influence, and their struggle to contain it only emphasizes how fully, how undeniably you are moving through the world in a way they cannot touch, cannot imitate, cannot erase that. Their false stories prove you've become impossible to ignore. Isn't it strange how the world reacts when someone refuses to fit into its small boxes? People create realities around you, whispering lies, exaggerating truths, spinning narratives that serve their fear and envy, all because they cannot bear the weight of someone moving unapologetically through life. The falsehoods they tell are not about you. They are about them. They are desperate attempts to rewrite reality so that it fits inside the limits they have imposed on themselves, as if by bending the world around you, they can pretend it is safe to exist. And yet, every lie, every twisted story, every careful manipulation of perception only highlights your presence. The more they fabricate, the louder your reality speaks. Every distortion, every half-truth, every shadowy rumor is a confession of your influence. They cannot touch the core of who you are. They cannot control the energy you bring, the clarity you hold, the momentum that refuses to wait for anyone's approval. So they invent fiction, hoping to shrink your power, hoping to disguise the fact that they are watching, studying, obsessing over every detail they cannot have. It's almost poetic watching them try. They weave tales about your intentions, your actions, your thoughts, all while thinking they are clever enough to fool someone. But the truth has a way of sneaking through, a subtle radiance that cannot be extinguished by whispered lies or distorted narratives. The false stories, the exaggerations, the slanders, they only exist because the truth is too vibrant to ignore. They are forced into the shadows, chasing an image, a reflection, a ghost of what you are, unable to reach the substance of your existence. People react in predictable ways when confronted with someone they cannot contain. They whisper, they exaggerate, they speculate, all in a desperate effort to regain control. They construct layers of fiction as though by surrounding you with stories, they can dim the force of your reality. And each lie is a mirror reflecting the insecurities they refuse to acknowledge. Every narrative they build, every manipulation of perception, betrays their own fear, the fear that your clarity and power make them irrelevant, insignificant, invisible in the presence of someone who refuses to compromise their truth. It becomes an ecosystem of obsession. One lie begets another. One rumor invites more. One exaggeration pulls in a dozen more willing participants, all circling the story, all feeding on the image they've created, all unknowingly amplifying your presence. And in this chaos, in this frenzy, there is a clear pattern. The stronger your reality, the more elaborate their fabrication. The louder your truth resonates, the more feverishly they spin their stories. Their attempts to contain you, to reduce you, to make you manageable, only prove your uncontainable essence. And it isn't limited to actions alone. Their words, their gestures, their silent calculations all broadcast their obsession. They watch for movement, they dissect intention, they speculate on strategy, all in hopes of finding something they can manipulate. They cannot understand that the true power lies not in what you do to them, not in what they believe they can influence, but in what you do in spite of them. The lies are irrelevant to your momentum. The whispers cannot touch your path. The fabrications are shadows against the blaze of reality you carry with you. It's both amusing and revealing how their obsession escalates. At first, it's subtle, almost imperceptible, a slight distortion here, a hint of exaggeration there. Then it grows, spreading through conversations, through social networks, through the hidden corners of attention, shaping perception in ways they hope will control the narrative. But all they do is illuminate your significance. Every false story is a measure of how much energy the world invests in trying to define you, to shrink you, to make you small enough to ignore. And that investment, that focus, that desperate need to reshape your reality, it proves again and again that you have become impossible to ignore. And as they continue, you notice the patterns, the obsession, the whispers, the fabrications. They follow predictable rhythms. They flare when your presence becomes undeniable, intensify when your momentum grows, peak when your clarity threatens their illusion. And every false story, every distortion, every manipulation becomes a map of your influence, a testament to the power you wield merely by existing authentically, moving decisively, refusing to fit into the small world they constructed to protect themselves. The irony is exquisite. Their attempts to diminish you, to fabricate control, to rewrite your life, only underscore the reality that they cannot contain, cannot predict, and cannot ignore you, and their failure to manage it reflects their fear, their envy, and their obsession with a force that has already moved beyond their reach. You know, it's funny how the world loves a good puppet show. Everyone's out there pulling the strings, making people dance to their tune. The manipulators, the ones who always think they can control the narrative, control your thoughts, your feelings, your actions. They think they've got you figured out, that they can bend you, break you, make you believe whatever lie they want. They poke, they prod, they push, just to see how much they can make you squirm. And they do it in such subtle ways, so smooth, so calculated, that you don't even realize you're being pulled into their little game until it's too late. The manipulator's goal is simple. They want you to react. They want to see the emotions play out, watch you flinch, watch you argue, watch you get tangled up in their web. That's where they draw their power from, right? From the reactions, from the drama, from the energy you're giving them. You're feeding them. Every time they say something to provoke you, every time they tell you a lie, twist the truth, or make you feel guilty, they're waiting. They're waiting for you to bite, waiting for you to get all riled up, to show them your cards, to let them see you're affected. And why? Why do they do this? Because as long as you keep reacting, as long as you keep playing their game, they've got control. You think you're in charge of your emotions, of your thoughts, of your actions, but as long as you keep reacting to their little manipulative tactics, they've got you right where they want you. They've got you in their pocket. And it's the classic puppet master trick. Make you feel like you're the one in control, that you're the one calling the shots, but all along they've been the ones pulling the strings. They've been the ones orchestrating the show, and you've been nothing but an actor on their stage. That's the sick part of it. You think you're defending yourself, you think you're holding your ground, but in reality, you're just giving them more ammunition, more fuel for their fire. The more you react, the more they win. The more you engage in the drama, the more they get to enjoy the show. They don't even care about the truth, about the facts. No, no, no. They just want the spectacle. They just want to see you react, because that's when they feel alive. That's when they get their hit, their satisfaction, their power. They don't need to win the argument. They just need you to lose your cool. So why do we fall for it? Why do we give them that power? It's easy, isn't it? It's easy to react, to get sucked into the mess. Because when you're dealing with a manipulator, they don't just mess with your mind. They mess with your emotions, your insecurities, your doubts. They know exactly what buttons to press, and they press them over and over again. They make you question your worth, make you second guess your decisions, make you feel like you're the problem. And it works. It works because for a moment you start to believe them. You start to doubt yourself. You start to think that maybe, just maybe, they're right. That maybe you are too sensitive, too emotional, too reactive, that maybe you are overreacting or blowing things out of proportion. That's the trap. That's the game. They know how to make you question yourself, how to make you feel small, how to make you feel like you need their approval, their validation. And when they've got you there, when they've got you second-guessing yourself, they've won. They've got you exactly where they want you. But here's the kicker. The moment you stop reacting, the moment you stop letting them mess with your head, you take away their power. Because let's face it, they don't have power over you. They only have power over the version of you that keeps reacting. They don't have control over your life. They only have control over the parts of your life that you let them into. You don't have to give them that power. You don't have to play their game. The minute you realize that the manipulator's strength is in your emotional response, you start to see through the facade. You start to see their tricks for what they are. Empty little games designed to get you riled up, designed to get you off balance, to make you lose sight of what really matters. And when you stop reacting, when you stop feeding their fire, it all starts to burn out. The manipulator loses their edge. They lose their leverage. They lose the one thing that gives them control, your emotional energy. They have nothing left to work with. And you're free. You're no longer dancing to their tune, no longer trapped in their little performance. You've taken back your power. You've taken back your life. And here's the secret the manipulators don't want you to know. They can't manipulate you if you refuse to play their game. They can't control you if you don't give them that power. They can't make you feel small if you don't let them. But that's the trick. Stop reacting, and you stop giving them control. You stop feeding their little circus. And that's when the real power lies. Oh, there's something funny about manipulators, don't you think? They think they have it all figured out, that they know the exact buttons to press, the perfect words to say. They think they can control every single movement you make. But here's the thing. What they don't know is that silence is the ultimate riddle they'll never solve. See, when you're dealing with these people, they're looking for that reaction, that confirmation that they've gotten to you. They thrive on your response like parasites feeding off of your emotions. And the funniest part? The moment you stop reacting, you stop playing their game, they're left standing there looking like a fool, desperately trying to get a rise out of you. It's almost as if they can't function unless they see you squirm, unless they see you rise to their bait. They can't handle the fact that you're not giving them what they want. They're out there fishing for a bite, and you've decided not to nibble on the hook. You stop feeding their need for drama, their hunger for conflict. That's when you win, without saying a word. The moment you take away their ammunition, they're left powerless, looking around like someone who forgot the punchline to their own joke. They'll try harder. Oh, they always do. They'll throw more gas on the fire, make their accusations sharper, their comments nastier, just to see if they can get a little reaction from you. And when you don't give it to them, when you just sit there, cool as ice, they lose their grip. They can't hold it together anymore. Because what they don't realize is that they need you to react. They need you to care. Without that, they've got nothing. No one to play the game with. Nothing to win. So what happens when you stop reacting? Well, that's the real kicker. When you stop feeding the chaos, when you stop getting all riled up by their little schemes, you start to see them for what they really are. Pathetic little creatures who can't function without creating a little storm. They feed on your insecurity, your anxiety, your fear. They love it when they see you questioning yourself, when they see you scrambling to defend your every move, justify your every decision. But when you refuse to let them get to you, when you stop giving them that emotional power, they get exposed. Suddenly they're just standing there, looking foolish, with nothing left to manipulate. What's left for them to do? They're out of tricks. They're out of moves. They can't control you because you've stopped playing their game. It's almost like watching a magician whose sleight of hand has been exposed. All their secrets are laid bare, and they can't stand it. But you know what the most hilarious thing about all of this is? They think they have control. They think they can push all your buttons and pull all your strings. But they're blind to the reality that the moment you stop reacting, the moment you stop feeding them your energy, they lose. They lose it all. They lose their power, their influence, their hold over you. They're left powerless, scrambling for something they'll never find. Your attention, your reaction, your energy. And once you stop giving them that, it's like watching a puppet show with no puppets. It's sad, really. They can only create their chaos because you allow it. But the second you stop playing their game, you've won. And they've got nothing. They try to pull all sorts of stunts, but they'll never have the upper hand. They're so used to getting under people's skin, so used to seeing the effect they have. But the moment you stop feeding into their act, you turn the tables on them. It's like playing chess with someone who only knows how to play checkers. They won't know what hit them. Because the truth is, manipulators only have as much power as you give them. They can only manipulate you if you allow it. They can only control you if you let them. The moment you step out of that dynamic, the moment you stop reacting, they're powerless. It's not about raising your voice, throwing a tantrum, or starting a fight. No, it's about holding your ground. It's about choosing silence, choosing peace over chaos. It's about stepping back and letting them have their tantrum while you sit there, watching them spin out of control. And that's when you realize you've always had the upper hand. They've just been too busy playing their tricks to see it. You know, there's something undeniably twisted about the way manipulators operate. They've mastered the art of planting seeds in your mind, then waiting for them to grow, waiting for you to water them with your emotions, your fears, your doubts. They love to watch you squirm, to see you twist in the wind, to see how much of their poison you're willing to swallow. And it works. It works because as much as we'd like to think we're above it all, they're experts at pushing those buttons, aren't they? It doesn't take much. A little guilt here, a little shame there. Maybe a well-placed comment about how you've disappointed them, how you could have done better, how they were only trying to help. And then they sit back, waiting for the show. And you start reacting, don't you? You start defending yourself, justifying your actions, trying to explain why you're not the bad guy. But here's the thing. Every time you react, every time you explain yourself, every time you get caught up in that emotional mess they've thrown at you, they win. They win because they've gotten you exactly where they want you. They've distracted you from your own thoughts, from your own peace of mind, and pulled you into their circus, into their drama. And why? Because the more you react, the more they get to control the narrative. The more you explain, the more they twist the truth. They don't even care about what's real, what's true, what's right. They care about keeping you off balance, keeping you in a constant state of confusion, guilt, and doubt. And the more you respond, the more you give them your energy, the more you give them the upper hand. But you don't have to play their game. The moment you stop reacting, the moment you stop defending yourself, you take back that power. They can't control you if you refuse to play along. They can't manipulate you if you don't engage in their games. They can't get under your skin if you choose not to let them. And that, my friend, is where you get the upper hand. You take away their ammunition. You stop feeding their lies, their accusations, their little mind games. And you know what happens when you stop reacting? They start to panic. They don't know what to do with themselves. They can't handle it. They're like a predator who's lost their prey. They don't know how to function without that emotional response. And it drives them crazy because they've been so used to having control over you, so used to seeing you stumble, to seeing you second-guess yourself, to seeing you question your worth. But when you stop reacting, you stop giving them that power. And that's when they lose their grip. You see, silence isn't just the absence of sound. No. It's a weapon. It's a powerful tool that you can use to dismantle the manipulator's hold over you. They can't fight silence. They can't argue with it. They can't twist it or use it against you. Silence forces them to face their own nonsense, forces them to see that their power only exists because you gave it to them. And the moment you take that away, they're left standing there completely helpless, unable to move, unable to continue their little charade. It's almost poetic, really. They've been so busy trying to manipulate you, trying to make you feel small, trying to make you doubt yourself, that they've never stopped to think about what would happen if you simply stopped caring. If you simply stopped react. It's a wake-up call for them. It's a slap in the face. Because without your reaction, without your emotional investment, they're just like a snake that's lost its venom. They can't bite. They can't sting. They can't hurt you. And isn't that the real power? The power to not let them affect you? To not let their words, their actions, their tactics get inside your head? The power to stand firm, to hold your ground, and to simply say, I'm not playing this game with you anymore. So when they try to twist your words, when they try to make you feel guilty, when they try to make you the villain in their story, you know what you do? You stay silent. You refuse to play by their rules. You refuse to give them the satisfaction of seeing you react. And what do? They flail. They scramble. They'll try everything they can to pull you back into the chaos. But it won't work. Because you've figured it out. You've figured out the secret. The real power is in the silence. You don't need to explain. You don't need to justify yourself. You don't need to give them the time of day. All you need to do is stop reacting, stop giving them your energy, and watch as they lose their grip on you. It's like a magician whose trick has been revealed. Suddenly, everything is clear, and they're left standing there with nothing but their empty hands. So, isn't it just hilarious how manipulators believe they're the smartest ones in the room? They think they've got it all figured out, like they've cracked the code to life, to you. They see themselves as these grand puppet masters, pulling strings here and there, watching people dance to their whims. The best part? They have no idea you've already figured them out. They believe they control everything with their words, with their actions. But here's the kicker. They're all just playing a game they can't win. They act like they know exactly how to make you tick, but they've never truly understood the most important thing in this whole charade. You don't have to react to them. You don't have to give them what they're asking for. You don't have to give them your energy. It's like watching someone try to catch a butterfly with a sledgehammer. They're trying so hard, swinging wildly, but they're never going to get anywhere. It's almost laughable. They manipulate, they push, they pull. They think they're getting under your skin, and for a while they might even make you believe they are. But the truth is, they're just throwing their little tantrum while you sit there, watching them lose their grip. The moment you stop reacting, the moment you stop feeding them your attention, they're left with nothing. Nothing but their own reflection in the mirror. They'll never get to you because you've taken away the thing that they thrive on. Your reaction, your response, your emotional energy. It's like taking the fuel out of their fire. Suddenly they're left standing there, alone, trying to make sense of why things aren't going the way they planned. But you see, that's the thing about manipulators. They don't want the truth. They don't want to see you for who you really are. They don't want you to stand strong, to stand firm in your beliefs and your sense of self. No, they want to break you down. They want to turn you into something else, something they can control, something that fits into their twisted little narrative. They'll tell you things like, you're not good enough. You're too emotional. You'll never make it without me. They'll attack your weaknesses, they'll dig into your insecurities, and they'll try to exploit every ounce of doubt they can find in your mind. But here's the thing they'll never understand. Silence is the ultimate weapon. When they try to push you down, when they try to tear you apart, you don't fight back with words. You don't play into their hands. You let them keep talking. Let them keep spinning their lies and their manipulations. But you stay quiet. You let them burn themselves out. You don't give them the satisfaction of seeing you react. And they'll get frustrated. Oh, they'll get so frustrated. They won't understand why they can't control you. They won't get why their words aren't cutting through. They'll keep pushing. They'll keep playing their game. But you won't budge. And that's when they start to crack. That's when their whole little world starts to unravel. Because here's the dirty secret they don't want to admit. They need you to react. They need you to play along with their little drama, to get caught in their web of lies. Without your reaction, they've got nothing. They're just a person shouting at a wall. They're spinning their wheels, going nowhere. They don't realize it, but they're just digging themselves deeper and deeper into a hole they can't crawl out of. And that's when you realize you've won. You've won without saying a word. You've won without playing their game. You've won by doing absolutely nothing. It's almost too easy. You've turned their entire strategy against them. They wanted to control you, to break you, but you simply refused to play their game. You didn't fall for their tricks. You didn't feed into their nonsense, and they can't handle that. They can't understand why their manipulation isn't working, why you're not caving into their pressure. They thought they could get you to doubt yourself, to question your worth, to second-guess every decision you make. But when you stop reacting, when you refuse to give them the satisfaction of seeing you struggle, they lose. They lose because they've got nothing left to manipulate. They're not getting the reaction they crave. They're not getting the control they desperately seek. And without that control, they're nothing. They're just another sad, desperate person with no power, no influence, no way to keep their act going. It's almost pitiful to watch, really. They've spent all this time thinking they could manipulate you, thinking they could break you, but all they've really done is reveal their own weakness. The moment you stop reacting, the moment you stop feeding them, they become powerless. And that's when the game ends. You've won, and they've got no idea how it happened. They'll never understand it because they're so blinded by their own schemes, their own desperation. They'll keep trying to get under your skin, but it won't work because you've taken the one thing they need to win, your emotional energy. And once they've lost that, they're finished. Game over. You ever wonder why some people always seem to be in control, like they know exactly how to pull your strings? It's like they're always one step ahead, always knowing just what to say, just how to push you into reacting the way they want. They make you feel like you owe them something, like you have to keep explaining yourself, justifying your actions, trying to make sense of their chaos. And all the while they sit back, watching you spiral, watching you get tangled up in their little web of manipulation. It's almost beautiful in a way, isn't it? The way they have you convinced that it's all your fault, that you're the one who's doing something wrong, that you need to fix yourself, fix your actions, fix everything around you to fit into their distorted world. You become so wrapped up in trying to please them, trying to make them see things your way, trying to make them feel better about themselves, that you forget about your own peace, your own happiness, your own sense of self. You stop thinking about what's best for you because you're too busy thinking about what's best for them. And that, my friend, is the ultimate trap. They get you to focus on them, to focus on their needs, their desires, their demands, while you completely neglect your own. You let them make all the decisions for you. You let them guide your thoughts, your emotions, your actions. They create this illusion that they're the one in charge, that they hold the power, and you start to believe it. But here's the trick. They're not in control. No, they're just very, very good at making you think they are. They get inside your head and start rewriting your story. They make you feel like you're the problem, like you're the one who's always messing things up. But the truth is, they're the ones who have created the chaos in your life. They're the ones who've manipulated you into thinking that you're always the one who has to apologize, that you're the one who has to make things right. But here's the thing about silence. It's not just the absence of words. It's the absence of reaction. When you stop reacting, when you stop playing into their hands, that's when the game changes. When you stop giving them the satisfaction of seeing you flinch, of seeing you bend to their will, you take back control. You make the rules. You stop letting them dictate the terms of your life, and they can't handle that. They can't stand it, Because you see, they need you to react. They need to see you squirm, to see you doubt yourself, to see you second guess your decisions. They need to watch you chase after them, apologize, beg for their approval, because that's the only way they feel validated. It's like they're feeding off of your energy, your emotions, your vulnerabilities. But the moment you stop reacting, the moment you stop playing their game, they're left starving, struggling to get a rise out of you, and they don't know what to do. They try to keep pushing, of course, they always do. They'll keep throwing their little insults, their accusations, their guilt trips, hoping you'll bite. But you don't. You've stopped biting. And that's when their power begins to fade, when you take away their ability to make you feel guilty, to make you feel small, to make you question your worth. They've got nothing left to hold on to. They'll try to make you feel bad for not reacting, for not giving them what they want. They'll try to guilt trip you, make you feel like you owe them an explanation, but you don't owe them anything. The only person you owe something to is yourself. And when you choose not to react, when you choose to stay silent, you're sending them a message. You're done. You're no longer playing their game. You've stopped giving them your energy, your time, your attention. You've taken back your power. And that's something they can never take away from you. The more you stay silent, the more you refuse to feed into their manipulations, the more they'll flail around looking for something to hold on to. They'll try to get a rise out of you, try to make you react, try to get you back into that familiar cycle of emotional chaos. But you've learned. You've figured out their little trick. You've figured out that they can't control you if you don't let them. They can't break you if you don't let them in. They can't manipulate you if you refuse to engage. And the best part? They'll never understand why they can't break you. They'll never understand why their little tactics aren't working anymore. Because they've been so used to having control over you, so used to seeing you react, that they'll never see it coming when you stop. And you know what happens then? They lose. They lose because they no longer have the power to make you feel small, to make you feel like you're not enough, to make you doubt yourself. They lose because you've stopped giving them what they need to survive. And without that, they're nothing. They'll keep trying, sure. They'll keep pushing, twisting, manipulating, but they've already lost. Because you've figured it out. You've learned the secret. The real power is in silence. The real power is in refusing to react. The real power is in choosing not to give them what they want. And once you stop doing that, they're finished. Game over. You ever notice how people love to play the victim? They parade around like they're the ones suffering, like the whole world owes them something, when all they're really doing is projecting their own insecurities onto you. It's almost laughable, isn't it? They act like they're the only ones who've been wronged, the only ones who've been hurt, while the rest of the world just spins around them, trying to make sense of their little tantrums. It's like watching a child scream in the middle of a supermarket because they didn't get the toy they wanted. They'll point fingers, lay blame, act like everyone else is the cause of their misery, when deep down, they know the truth. It's them. They're the ones creating the chaos. They're the ones twisting reality to make themselves seem innocent, when in reality, they're the ones who've been stirring the pot all along. But here's where it gets interesting, see? The people who love to play the victim, the ones who want everyone to feel sorry for them, they never stop to think about the toll their behavior takes on others. They never stop to think about how their constant need for attention, their constant need for validation just wears people down. They take and they take and they take, but they never give back. They expect everyone else to carry the weight of their emotions, to fix their problems, to make their pain go away. But the moment you stop giving them what they want, when you stop playing into their little game, that's when the fun starts. They'll start whining. They'll start complaining. They'll start making you feel like you're the one who's in the wrong. They'll start angering you at things that you don't understand and then try and shame you in a fit of wrath. They'll twist your words, distort your intentions, and do everything in their power to make you feel guilty for not giving them what they need. And they'll keep going, they'll keep pushing, but here's the catch. It doesn't have to affect you. It doesn't have to mess with your mind. It doesn't have to drain your energy. You see, the moment you stop reacting, the moment you stop feeding into their need for attention, you take away their power. You stop being part of their game. You stop being their emotional punching bag. And you know what happens then? They lose. Because when you refuse to play along, when you refuse to give them the satisfaction of your reaction, they're left with nothing. They're left alone with their own insecurity, their own emptiness, their own inability. They've been manipulating everyone around them, trying to get sympathy, trying to make others feel sorry for them. But when you don't bite, when you stop offering them your sympathy, your energy, your emotional space, they start to crack. They can't keep up the act anymore. They can't maintain the facade because they've been so used to people feeding into their drama, so used to having others carry the weight of their emotional baggage that they don't know how to function without it. They don't know how to deal with their own pain, their own issues, when no one is there to pick up the pieces for them. They're like a puppet with no strings, aimlessly flailing, desperately trying to make sense of a world that no longer revolves around them. And that's when they start to fall apart. They start to unravel because they don't have control anymore. They don't have the power to manipulate you, to make you feel guilty, to make you question yourself. They've lost their grip on you, and that's the thing they can't stand. They can't stand being ignored. They can't stand being left to face their own mess. They can't stand not being the center of attention. But guess what? You're not their audience anymore. You're not their emotional punching bag. You've learned the secret to silence. You've learned the power of stepping back and refusing to engage with their games. And the more you do it, the more they'll try to reel you back in. They'll guilt trip you. They'll manipulate you. They'll try every trick in the book to make you feel responsible for their emotions. But you've figured them out. You know what they're up to. And here's the kicker. They can't win. They can't break you because you're no longer playing the game. You're no longer feeding into their drama. You're standing strong not because you have to, but because you know you don't need them to define you. They can try to make you feel small. They can try to make you feel weak. But every time you resist, every time you stand tall and refuse to give them what they want, you're winning. They'll keep trying, of course. They'll keep pushing, prodding, trying to provoke a reaction. But the more you stand your ground, the more you take away their power. And eventually, they'll break. They'll crack under the pressure of their own manipulation. They'll realize they can't control you. And that's when you've truly won.